Welcome back to my room. This is your average Jen. Right now, we're going to be going over step 4, which is a very scary thing for most people. And I believe that this one was a lot of questions again, so it might be a little scattered. I don't really remember. Let's dive into step 4, which I believe is taking personal inventory. All right, so let's see what I had to say on step 4. This was back in September of 2023 when I recorded this. All right.
Hi there, and welcome to I'm Only Human, a podcast that attempts to explain how to coexist with other humans. This podcast is going to dive into topics like: is it possible to overcome human nature? Are rules and laws necessary for taming bad behaviors, or are they simply a control mechanism crafted by other disturbed minds? Why do we fight with each other? How does traditional religion impact us? Can social disease be healed through individual recovery? My name is Jen, and I'm an average human. Before I begin, I would like to state that I will be talking about controversial things such as, but not limited to, religion, God, the Bible, 12-step programs, and politics. I am not an expert, and I don't claim to be one. I will, however, be referencing Alcoholics Anonymous because it is the granddaddy of all other 12-step programs. I will also be quoting things from the Bible and mentioning God along with different religions. I'm not trying to promote a particular program, nor am I trying to convert anyone. I believe religion gives us a foundation, and 12-step recovery guides people down a path to self-actualization. Through recovery, healing is possible. I believe that changed minds and attitudes can change our world. Hi, you caught me. Today we'll be following the recovery path, and this is going to talk about step 4 from my perspective and with some questions that I came across to help me figure some things out. You may want to listen to this episode multiple times because there are a lot of questions in here, like all the other steps, and I apologize, but it's good to listen more than one time. You may hear something different. Step 4 is to make a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. But what does that mean? Am I willing to honestly look at myself? It may seem like a simple thing to say, yeah, I'll be honest with myself, but can you really be honest with yourself? Is there anything that could possibly stand in your way of you being honest with yourself? Does everyone understand what an inventory is? Like the product you see on stores' shelves or in the shelves of a gas station, that product that's waiting to be bought is what it is considered inventory. And every now and then, it's very beneficial for the department store or gas station to go through their inventory to see what they exactly do and don't have. It's just a way of seeing what a company has in stock and if it matches what's on the inventory sheet. If things don't match up, they have to figure out where the discrepancy is and remedy the situation. Was the product stolen? Is it expired? Is product not selling? Is everything accounted for in some way? So, in the fourth step, a person goes over their moral inventory. What does that mean? Why does it need to be searching and fearless anyway? All right. I suppose it's time to go to our handy dandy dictionary and figure out what those words mean. First word on the list: moral. Moral is defined as an adjective that is concerned with the principles of right and wrong behavior and the goodness or badness of human character. The second definition of moral as an adjective means holding or manifesting high principles for proper conduct. The example the dictionary uses is he prides himself on being a highly moral and ethical person. Synonyms associated with this definition are virtuous, good, righteous, upright, upstanding, high minded, right minded, principled, proper, honorable, honest, just, noble, incorruptible, respectable, scrupulous, decent, irreproachable, truthful, law abiding, pure, blameless, sinless, and clean living. Antonyms are immoral and bad and dishonorable. The word moral, as defined by a noun, is a lesson, especially when concerning what is right or prudent. That can be derived from a story, a piece of information, or an experience. The example that the dictionary uses is, quote, the moral of this story was that one must see the beauty in what one has, end quote. The synonyms associated with this particular definition are lesson, message, meaning, significance, signification, import, point, precept, and teaching. The second definition of the word moral is defined as a person's standards of behavior or beliefs concerning what is and is not acceptable for them to do. Quote, the corruption of public morals, end quote, is the example the dictionary uses. The synonyms associated with this particular definition are principles, standards, morality, scrupulous, ideals, moral code, code of ethics, moral standards, moral values, principles of right and wrong, rules of conduct, standards slash principles of behavior, sense of morality. And once again, in case I lost you, I'm trying to take the scariness out of the word moral. Generally, what I've noticed is people associate moral with religion. The next part is searching and fearless. Let's look up what searching means, shall we? So, searching is an adjective and it is defined as thoroughly scrutinizing, especially in a disconcerting way. Well, I don't know about you, but that did not provide a whole lot of clarity for me about what searching means. So, let's look at other definitions. Searching as a verb means to try to find something by looking or otherwise seeking carefully and thoroughly. It is the way that we search for our car keys or a phone when we misplace them. We dig through things, we look for these things in the weirdest locations ever, and we don't give up until we find what we're looking for because we need those items. Correct? Therefore, a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves means to search within ourselves for what we believe. What do we think is right or wrong? Do our actions match what we feel inside? Like, for instance, are you a person that pretends to be a good person and then secretly you're not? There was a song by Primus. It was called Natural Joe. It was about a guy who had two faces. There's the one that he showed to the world where he was this clean cut church going guy who never did anything wrong. And then there was Joe, who was the actual Joe, who loved to watch violent movies and he loved to drink and he loved violence and all the stuff that he and his outside persona viewed as being bad or immoral. We could take a look at it in an easy to understand terms. Just take a look at Facebook and how fake that is. Well, you got your complainers on there, so that might not be fake. But for the people who portray their lives as being beautiful and perfect at all times, they're lying. TV sitcoms where families are happy and problems can be solved in 30 minutes or less, that's a lie. Fairy tales where there's a happily ever after, that's a lie. When you're being searching and fearless, looking into yourself, you have to see through your own lies and you have to look at that ugly person that's underneath. You must look at that person that does human things when they're away from the public eye. That is who you really are. With a searching and fearless moral inventory, you're just asking, are you going to be willing to admit that you make mistakes? If so, what do you plan to do to correct your inventory sheet? How can you be the person you've always wanted to be? Well, my friends, stick around and find out. Now, the doubt might start to creep up. But how do you do a searching and fearless moral inventory? I mean, what exactly is it you're looking for, and how do you know when you find it? Well, let's start with a few basic questions. Ask yourself this: in what ways am I a caring individual and can I empathize with other people? Am I kind to myself? How about kind to others? Are you able to be kind to the elderly? How about to children, to your family and friends, and those in need of assistance? This is a good one to think about. How am I tolerant? Am I open to another's point of view? Do I really listen to other people who have different thoughts than mine, or do I shut those people out? You should know if you're a trustworthy person. Do you pay your bills on time? Do you follow through with commitments? Are you on time to the places you go? Are you always the person who's late? Are you responsible at your job? Do you do what you're supposed to do, or are you busy wasting time rather than working? Are you more concerned with socializing and gossiping than getting the job done? Are people able to depend on you? Are you an honest person? Do you tell the whole truth, or do you only tell part of the truth? And how come you don't tell the whole truth? This may sound obvious, but in what ways do you care for yourself? Do you make needed medical appointments? Do you dress appropriately for the seasons or whatever situation you're in? Do you surround yourself with healthy people? Are you a respectful person? And if so, how do you show that you're respectful? Do you take care of material things, whether they're yours or another person's? Does your home look like the site of a hoarder? Or does it look like it should be in a horror movie because you don't take care of it? Are you careful when you borrow things from others? Or do people hesitate to lend you things because you seem to always lose them or break them? Are you respectful of the law? I figure most people are to a certain extent. Are you a generous person? Do you freely give your time to helping others? If you have a few extra bucks, do you donate those few extra bucks to anywhere? Are you the kind of person that looks for the good in others rather than finding the flaws and only the flaws? I know this is a lot of questions. Here comes some more. Do you feel you're a kind person? And in what ways do you feel you are kind? Are you considerate of other people? Do you listen patiently to others who want to talk or vent? Or do you constantly interrupt and tell your own stories to try to either one up them or show that you understand where they're coming from rather than just let them talk? Do you offer help if you see someone struggling? Would you just go up and lend a hand, or would you watch and see what happens? Seems like a lot of people these days would just get out their cell phones quick and start videotaping rather than stepping in to help anyone else. The point of these questions is to get you thinking about things that you never really stopped to consider before. And that is why there are so many of them. It's supposed to help highlight your good points, but it also helps highlight those areas where you may not be so strong or areas you may want to change. Answering these questions is what is needed in order to fill out your inventory, in order to know yourself, to know what kind of product is on that shelf, or to know the kinds of things that you're made up of, what you're willing to tolerate, what you're not willing to tolerate, what you're willing to change, what you're not willing to change. But it also wants to take a look at whatever positive aspects you have, because a lot of times when people are going through their moral inventory, they're so hard on themselves, and that's not the point of an inventory. Not at all. It's to take a look at everything. It's a guide, a map of you and yourself. It helps if you write it down somewhere, but it's not necessary. So, what sort of talents do you have? Do you have any artistic gifts? Are you musical in any ways? Or are you creative? How are you creative? Are you a good storyteller? Are you good with arts and crafts? What do you do? Do you see beauty in things that don't necessarily look beautiful? All sorts of people have all sorts of talents. Take a look at yourself. What are you good at? You may want to try new things because you might not know. You might not know what you're good at or what you're not good at. You might find something you like. So, how are your relationships? Do you make friends easily? Why or why not? That's something to look at further at another time. And along that same lines, do you have trouble with intimate relationships? Why or why not? I have to say that most of my relationships had suffered when there was no clear communication, and I've learned how to express myself a little bit better by stating what it is that I want or what I'm looking for instead of playing little games. I got tired of playing those little games because if the other person didn't guess the right thing, they didn't guess what I was feeling or anything, my feelings were hurt. And I should have just been clear to begin with. It saves a lot of frustration and anger if you're just honest up front. Are you able to see the humor in life even when things are going bad? It's the way of being optimistic. So are there other ways that you may be optimistic that you know about? I'm sorry. I'm going to bring up a higher power here. Are you a person that practices faith and in a power greater than you? Do you practice faith in yourself? How about in others? If you have faith, how do you share it? Are you grateful or do you hide it? This next one is going to be a little bit tough, so bear with me. Okay. How humble are you? And just for fun, we should probably look up what humble means. So, the definition of humble is having or showing a modest or low estimate of one's own importance. The second definition is of low social, administrative, or political rank. The example used is, quote, she came from a humble, unprivileged background, end quote. Synonyms of humble include the words meek, deferential, respectful, submissive, self effacing, unassertive, unpresuming, modest, unassuming, self depreciating, and mim. Maybe it's just easier to say what the antonyms are, which is proud and overbearing. So, another definition of humble is someone lower in dignity or importance. And the example the dictionary is using is, quote, I knew he had humbled himself to ask for my help, end quote. The synonyms of this definition of humble is humiliate, abase, demean, belittle, lower, degrade, debase, bring down, mortify, shame, abash, subdue, chasing, bring low, put to shame, or this phrase, take down a peg or two. Being humbled is not easy to deal with by any means. We are all so used to being so important to ourselves that we forget we're just like everyone else. To be humbled, truly humbled, is a life changing experience. And maybe it is meant to be as a punishment, but being humbled is something that an individual has to decide on their own. Nobody can humble you unless through means of mind games. But when you decide to humble yourself and bring yourself down to the level of everyone else living here on earth, that is when change can start. That's when a new beginning can start. Because once you get rid of that ego, it allows you to get out of your own way. Look at the people that influence our country. These people are no better than someone like me who is an absolute nobody. So if you're humbled enough, do you ask a power that's greater than you or another person for guidance and follow what these other people or this higher power suggests? When others have shared their wisdom, have you listened to it or did you just dismiss it? Do you ever admit to making a mistake? I know I get really mad at myself when I make a mistake because I want to be perfect. And the truth is, I am not perfect. I make mistakes and I have to learn to be okay with making mistakes. I need to be patient with myself, just as I would be patient with somebody that I am teaching how to do something, because in a sense, I am teaching myself how to do new things, or I am learning how to do new things, and I'm not going to be perfect at these things. I'm not going to be perfect at learning these new behaviors. It's going to take some practice. I'm going to be humbled over and over while I'm trying to figure this stuff out. Next question is about resentments. In what ways are you a resentful person? Do you harbor grudges and why? I'm sure that I still harbor some grudges, and I may not be aware of what they all are yet. Resentments are the downfall to so many things. So before I go much further, let's define what a resentment is. The definition states, a resentment is a bitter indignation at having been treated unfairly. The synonyms with resentment are bitterness, indignation, irritation, displeasure, dissatisfaction, disgruntlement, discontentment, discontent, resentfulness, hard feelings, animosity, hostility, antagonism, enmity, hatred, hate, envy, jealousy, malice, ill will, grudge, grievance, or the phrase chip on one shoulder, bad feelings, ill feelings. It's such an ugly thing. Just reminds me of everything that badness and sin is supposed to represent. So I say that resentments are the downfall to all these bad behaviors because of how resentments make a person feel. I've just listed a whole bunch of words that mean the same thing. We all know what these words mean. We all know what these feel like. So, part of the point of a fourth step inventory is to see what these resentments are and how to look at it from a different point of view and to work through the problem to get over it so you can move on with your life. It's about learning how to forgive not only yourself, but how to forgive other people as well. Now, if we know what ways we're resentful, we have to find out who we are angry with and why we are angry with that person or that place or that group of people. Now, here comes a real tough part. What was your part in that situation? Let me see if I can come up with an example of this. Let's say you're at work and you know that you made a mistake on something and you feel horrible about it, but your boss comes up to you and talks to you about the mistake you made, and you may get a write up because of it as well. Now, I know a lot of people would hold a resentment against the boss or the supervisor for giving them a write up. But the part that usually gets overlooked is a write up usually doesn't happen for the first offense. Usually, a write up happens after the same mistake is made over and over and after the employee had gotten talked to. So, if you did not correct the behavior and you made the same mistake again and you got written up, honestly, whose fault is it? Is it your fault or the supervisor for giving you a write up? Nobody wants to look at their part of a situation, but they do play a part. I get resentful that my bedroom becomes very messy from time to time. I'm the only one that's in my bedroom other than the lovely cats. So if my room is a mess, it's my fault that it's a mess. I can hold a resentment against myself and be angry that there's a mess, or I can pick up the mess and feel better about my space because it's got way less clutter in it. And also another example, if I'm running late going to work, I can't be resentful at the other drivers for driving the speed limit or driving slower. I didn't leave the house early enough to make it to work on time. This is what it means to own up to your part of the problem rather than blame everyone else and resent them. They may or may not have contributed to the problem, but it was my actions that caused the resentment. Can you think of anyone in your immediate environment that you may resent? Do you know why you resent them? Do they even know that you resent them? So, what is their part in it and what is yours? We're going to shift to another question now. Are you the kind of person that judges everybody they see? Like, if I see a person that's dressed differently than how I would dress, do I have to pick on that person and belittle them to make myself feel better? Well, you have to stop thinking of what this ideal perfection is. Nobody's ever going to be perfect. Nothing's ever going to work out perfectly. Do you judge yourself the same way you judge other people? And if so, why? Here's a good one. Am I fearful? And what do I fear? And why? So, just for fun, what does fear mean? Well, according to the dictionary, fear is an unpleasant emotion caused by the belief that someone or something is dangerous, likely to cause pain or a threat. Synonyms of fear are terror, fright, fearfulness, horror, alarm, panic, agitation, trepidation, dread, dismay, distress, anxiety, worry, angst, unease, uneasiness, apprehension, apprehensiveness, nervousness, timid, disquiet, discomposure, unrest, foreboding, misgiving, doubt, suspicion, phobia, aversion, nightmare, neurosis, complex mania, abnormal fear, irrational fear, and obsessive fear. Antonym is calm and confidence. So, fear as a verb is to be afraid of someone or something as likely to be dangerous, painful, threatening, and the synonyms for this definition are dread, be afraid of, be fearful, be scared of, be apprehensive of, live in fear, go in terror of, be terrified of, cower before, tremble before, cringe from, shrink from, flinch from, be anxious about, worry about, panic, yada, yada, yada. You get the point. So I ask again, are you a fearful person? And if so, why? Usually, people that are hiding something are the people that are the most fearful. When somebody gets close to revealing the truth, these people become violent and defensive. Next on the list is asking, are you a dishonest person? Do you hold secrets? Would you rather lie than cause a scene? What sort of dishonesty have you hidden from other people? I think there's a lot of people that hold secrets and are dishonest because they're afraid of people, that if people knew the truth about their home life not being perfect, or that they're being beaten by their spouse, or that their parents are addicts, or they're being abused, nobody wants to admit any of that. It's so much easier to smile and lie and say, yes, everything's okay. I'm fine. You know, it is okay to be human. It's okay to reach out for help. There are people that have been in whatever situation you're in, and the only way things are ever going to improve is if we reach out to one another, if we help one another. There are a lot of questions in this section, and this is because we're trying to find out more about ourselves. So, this next question is, do you feel sorry for yourself? Are you filled with self pity? And why is it that you feel that you are a victim? What is your part in it? I think everybody has a soapbox that they like to stand on from time to time, but when that becomes your whole personality and you want to play the victim all the time, it gets old really quickly. This is when people stop listening and stop caring because there's always some kind of crisis going on, and it usually turns out to be not a big deal at all. Sort of like the boy who cried wolf over and over again. So when something actually did happen, nobody believed him. Are there victims out there? Oh, absolutely. There are victims out there. And as hard as it is to hear this, this is where forgiveness comes in. If, let's say, you were abused as a child, you couldn't do anything about it when you were a child and nobody was there to protect you. You suffered this in silence, and I'm sure it was a horrifying thing. Your part in it now, as you're older, is holding on to that resentment and letting it eat you from the inside out. I know that my Uncle Dave had mentioned in the podcast episode, Forgiveness of a Child Molester, the same exact thing. Shifting gears, once again, are you the kind of person who likes to fix things? Do you want to be the one in charge at all time? And what happens when that doesn't go your way? Another way to describe a person who likes to fix things or other people is a codependent. And I know I keep saying I'll get into this episode, and I'll eventually get into this episode. Sometimes people who like to fix things like to create the chaos, and then they like to sit in the middle of the storm and just watch it unfold all around them. It's a way of being codependent. A codependent is someone who likes to take care of other people rather than taking care of themselves too. Are you able to trust yourself when you deal with other people? Not everyone has the same personality, and not all personalities get along with each other. So, is there a safe place that you can go if you're in harm's way? Do you remove yourself from potentially dangerous situations, or do you stay there and escalate things? What if it's your own home? It's a good thing to think about if you haven't already. It's always good to have a backup plan in case something happens there. What am I going to do? That way, when a situation pops up, you're not caught off guard. You're prepared. It's all part of owning your part of a situation, too, and removing yourself from a potentially dangerous situation. I'm going to leave with this last question here, bringing it back to God for a moment, and I'm sorry about that. The last couple of questions is, do I have a God of love or a God of fear in my life? And how can I change my attitude towards my higher power? In closing, I would like to say that the opinions expressed here were strictly of my own making, or by my guests. Take what you like and leave the rest. You may come to realize that you may not like me or what I want to share. Let's talk to each other, reason things out, but let there be no gossip or criticism of one another. Instead, let the fellowship of ethical human behavior and the serenity from positive human interaction help you grow and chill out, one experience at a time. I would like to thank my higher power for guiding me through this podcast. I hope to spread the message of love, hope, and understanding by touching one life at a time. If you like this podcast, please like and share it. Comments also help other struggling people find it. I am now listener supported, and if you would like to contribute, please feel free. There is no obligation. If you would like to share feedback, you can email me at averagehumanbeing1875@gmail.com. There is also a link you can click if you'd like to send a voice message and add to the content of the show.
Okay, so there you have it. Recovery path, step 4. The only reason I don't remember if I told you why I wore the hat. Wore the hat because it's a scary subject. So my battle armor here to go inside myself and search myself. Okay, so that's it for this one here. Join me again after I have a wardrobe change, and let's see what we're going to get into next. It'll be a surprise because, once again, I didn't pay attention when I was on the main screen. Bye-bye.